morning, everybody. So, had a little hitch in our giddy up this morning, and it appears we figured it all out, and I'm so grateful. I am so grateful to be surrounded by people that love me and are committed to this community, and so here we go. We got a Sunday morning that we are sharing in our interesting virtual manner that we're getting a little bit accustomed to. And I'm just happy to be here. So good morning, good morning. Welcome to the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Karen Rice, and I have a Sunday morning conversation to have with you. And so I think we probably should begin with a little bit of prayer. So just get comfortable wherever you are. Wherever you are. I can't even imagine all the many places we are right now. But what I know is that great thing that we call spirit itself is like this great blanket of love encompassing all of us, pulling us together into this one perfect moment of recognizing the infinite intelligence of all the universe, that which allows us to connect remotely, that which connects us intimately at the heart. I'm grateful for this, and I bless this time. I let it be, and so it is. Amen. So here's what I wanted to say today. I have a conversation planned. I picked this talk title, of course, many weeks before we knew the arrangement of the delivery of the message and what would be going on in the world. And the title of my message is Click Yes If You Agree. And I actually, because the world of technology is not my first love and first study, it's not something I know well, I realized when I was working the talk that I really meant it to be click yes if you accept, because I want to talk to you this morning about accepting the terms of agreement. Accepting the terms of agreement in our life and the ways in which we stand in choice. So I found this fabulous quotation from Dr. Ernest Holm, the founder of the Teaching of the Science of Mind, and from the book A New Design for Living. These are his words. Start to accept life. Limitations originate within us. They originate within ourselves. This is perhaps, and I get this image of him pointing a finger, this is perhaps the most wonderful thing that could happen. For now, we are not dealing with anything that is out of our control. Instead, we are dealing with that which we have complete control over, and that is our thoughts. We're dealing with our own thoughts. What an appropriate theme for us to be thinking about in this time of being a little isolated, a little more isolated than we're accustomed to. I don't think that it feels, in my life anyhow, it doesn't feel like I have complete control over all of the decisions I'd like to be making in my life. But I think these words of Ernest Holmes remind us that we can go back to our own inner wisdom and redefine, reconsider, look again at what's going on and what choices we have. So I think that it's possible for us to accept a greater concept about the truth of our life, that truth that is always ongoing, that contains no limitations whatsoever. And that's what I want to talk about this morning. That we can come into agreement with that part of life that is always flowing and moving and harmonizing all things together, and that all I have to do is find my place in that. I have to land and get in alignment with that, so that there's something about the energetic of Karen that harmonizes with that greater divine energetic that is my life. And it is your life as well. So what's happening is, I think that we're in a position to be sort of downloading some new information at this time in life, in the history of the world. And when I think of the way downloading information into my computer or my smartphone, when I think of the ways that that can feel really complicated, it helps me be a little more patient with that concept of us downloading new information at this time in the change that's going on in the world. And I think that because especially in our demographic, when we're all together in this community, we have some maturity about us that kind of indicates we've missed that window of easily understanding technology in this whole new world we're living in. And yet we've lived to be really grateful that we can do this. So let me tell you one element of the way it looks complicated. I was sitting at home and my husband got a phone call, and it was for his doctor's office. It was his cardiologist's office calling to reschedule his regular checkup. And so he's got the phone on speaker so I can hear both parts of the conversation. And so the woman said, well, we need to reschedule your appointment, and we're doing things differently. We're not seeing patients in the office, so we're going to have a virtual doctor visit with you. And my husband went, he laughed and he said, a virtual doctor's office? A doctor's visit. How are we going to do that? And the lady said, oh, it's going to be really easy. All you have to do is download this app on your phone. And immediately he said, oh, no. We're not doing that. Why don't you just reschedule my appointment for some time in the future when we believe we can get together in person again? So I see that we have resistance, and I see that there are things that really do feel complicated to us, and especially when we're looking at something like technology, which for many of us is like a whole new world, and in fact it has its very own languaging, which can be complex. So as we're looking at the development and advancement of technology in our lives and the way that we interact with that, we can see that it's sort of a step-by-step process, one foot in front of the next foot, and we don't necessarily understand. It's difficult to figure out the languaging. Sometimes it's like a foreign language. And then there's always that really fine print stuff. So if you're putting a new app in your phone, you go to download the app, and let's say I want, I don't know, Candy Crush. I want to put Candy Crush in my phone. And so I go to the App Store and I get ready to download it, and then it says to me, well, you have to accept these terms of agreement. And then, of course, we may scroll through those terms, and probably we don't really look at that fine print. But the application will not be downloaded until we agree to their terms of agreement. And I think that that's a little bit how life is. And I want us to realize that there's choice in that. So we got to click yes to accept. You want more good in your life? You got to click yes to accept that good. And I think what it really kind of tells me is that there's a way we are invited to take action in our life. So we get these decisions before us, or we get moving through a condition and we have a lot of thoughts about it, and then we get to sort of look at it from more than one perspective, because that's what life is. So here's what I've been thinking. We're having this human journey where something about us is really divine, and we know that as children of God, that we're created in the image and likeness of that divinity, of something that is divine beyond our comprehension, beyond our human ability to understand all that. And there are terms to the conditions of our lives. There are terms of agreement. And it feels to me as though we have sort of imprinted in our DNA, in the sort of the cells of our being, our humanity, the physical part that makes up our who we are. There's that fine print that's finally imprinted in us, encoded in us. And that the job of living is for us to sort of learn how to develop the skills to tap into that fine print, to be able to understand exactly what the terms of agreement are. And that's what the spiritual path is about. We're looking to have an understanding of what is this thing called life that we are clearly involved in and committed to in all different levels of understanding and participating. So figuratively, you could say that we're going through life and we're always looking for that click yes button. Right? We're always looking for that way to say yes to this much good, and then we adapt our life to that much good. But pretty soon, you know how that Candy Crush app is. Pretty soon, you're going to get tired of that, and you're going to be ready for more. And that's how life is. That then there'll be something else. We'll rise in a way that we'll realize there's an expanded opportunity for us to download more and more and more information. So life is intricate like that. I think that there's this interior intricacy about us. There's this complexity to life that can appear really complicated and can present us with some snafus, much like a little bit of what happened this morning. And hopefully we've I don't know what's going on your end, but I'm having a good time over here in my chair. And the bottom line is that we're always in choice. We're always in choice. You know, when you're downloading something in your computer or trying to look at a website, sometimes you get that square that says, "Are you sure you want to continue?" And then that's where we get to make a choice. And you know what? Sometimes I back out and go, no, I'm not really sure this is a safe place to travel in the workings of my computer, you know. So I'll back off. I'll say no, and I'll wait until I can get more information talk to somebody else that's done it and know whether or not that is a safe and good choice to make. But it's really important to know that there's always that question, and you can click yes, or you can also cancel the transaction. You always have choice. You don't have to go through anything you don't really want to go through. So these are interesting times. It is an interesting time to be a spiritual leader. Sort of an odd time to figure out what's my role, because quite frankly, I feel rather cut off from you. Even though I'm reaching out and doing things in my own way to try and get a sense of us still being connected, I miss you. You know, it's really different to be sitting here with Clyde and Julie in the room, and that's it. It's just us. And I miss you. And actually, they're really working hard at looking more engaged than in the past, and I'm grateful for that, because it's kind of silly to be sitting here having this whole talk with myself, but I'm imagining that you're there. And I've been reevaluating, what is my role? What is my role right now in a world that is temporarily much smaller than it used to be? And I've been getting clear. I've been talking to God a whole lot. I've been praying about this for a long while now, several weeks. What is it now? You know, how do you redefine? You think you got it all figured out, and then there's all this change. This is life, you know. I mean, this is kind of an exacerbated example, that going through the virus and all that. But what I know is there are two things. This is the message I got back in all those conversations from God. Sound a little like Neil Donald, don't I? There are two things I know for sure. What I bring to you, even from a distance. Oh, I forgot. Okay, I got it. What I bring to you, even from a distance, even when it's not on the top of my mind, is promise and principle. I bring you promise and principle, and the promise is not like an oath. The promise is that light. The promise is that way that we are a beacon of light in the desert. The promise is the way there's hope and there's light at the end of the tunnel. The promise is that I'm really convinced that we're moving through something and that it will pass, and then we will be in something brand new. And that for me is certainly a disruption, but because promise comes with principle, we know we're standing in a solid way, on a solid foundation. So yeah, something big has disrupted our lives. Something has disrupted everybody's life. We are sharing a huge global disruption right now. And I just want to say, isn't it exciting? Don't get mad at me, but come on, there's some excitement in this because we really don't know what comes next. And if you stand in principle and if you stand in promise, then it doesn't have to be scary. If we recognize we're given everything we need to move through stuff like this, then it can have a slightly different color or feeling about the way we're moving through it. Because there's something holy about resting in wonder, in that not knowing. There's something holy about this. There's something important that calls us at times like this to know and remember that God's here, and we get to play that game of questions. How is God right here in the middle of this? How is God here even as I'm watching myself blink on the screen and really wondering what the hell is going on your end? How is God still in this? And what I know is that God's still in this, right? I know that the Holy Spirit is absolutely everywhere. And if not this, we're also recording on a phone, and we will put that on YouTube, and you can watch this recording later. But the sacred is right in the middle of all of this. And therefore, I am calling this time a sacred disruption. I'm calling this time we are living in, the spring of 22, a sacred disruption. That has hope, and that has promise, and that has principle in it. Bernie Siegel said this. I found this fabulous quote. Bernie Siegel said, "Life's disruptions are like spiritual flat tires. At first, they seem like disasters, but they end up redirecting our lives in meaningful ways." Isn't that fabulous? He said that I'm going to guess 1970s was about when I first started hearing his name. Life is like a spiritual flat tire that's just causing us to pause and rest a minute, and then we are going to be redirected in a meaningful way. These are important words. But here's a thought I had while putting this material together. This is an interesting thought. We've been blaming this in all kinds of ways. People have been pointing fingers, having thoughts and ideas and judgments. And I had this interesting thought just this morning. I think it's our fault. I don't mean humanity. I think it's our fault. Those of us who have dared to imagine a world that works for everyone. I think it's our fault. Those of us who have loved deeply. Those of us who have been willing to look at the injustice that's going on in the world and putting our foot down and saying, enough. This is where we draw the line. We've said no to bullying. We've said no to hunger. We've said no to all kinds of things. We know which buttons we're clicking on. And I think it's our fault that we have now brought this tipping point. We have now brought people to a critical mass where we have no choice but to shift our consciousness as in a collective way, in a greater way than we have ever done before. And I'm not suggesting that we're going to, wake up on June 1st or 2021, January 1st, and the world's going to be peachy and we're all going to live happily ever after. We will, but it will still involve the lessons of life, the meaning of the planet Earth, and the human opportunity to have an experience of expressing life on this planet. I ask myself that question regularly. What is the world for? And when I ask that question, I just really get washed over with a really satisfying sense that we're moving in a perfect way for all the right reasons, and that we will get the lessons we need so that we can advance in the direction we are destined to advance in. But I, for one, don't want to do it kicking and screaming anymore. I, for one, don't want to be having a lot of judgment about the people I have believed have been holding us back from reaching that destination, whatever that destination might be. But I do think that we have done a good work in the way that enough people on this planet have been able to envision a different world, because that's what we're creating. That's what's happening right now. I mean, if you look at it through that view, I could say that it feels like we're downloading. We're sitting still, we're isolated, and we are downloading a big program, because it's a whole different consciousness, a whole different way of showing up in the world. And you know, when you're downloading a big program, it takes a while, and you have to be patient. And so while we're in that downloading sort of waiting process, I think it would be brilliant of us to sort of review the terms of agreement, to examine that small print, and to realize that so often the small print is not there to trick us, but the small print is there because we have created a society that requires a lot of legalistic jargon for anything to happen. And so if we're going to look at the legalistic side of the way we're aligning to that small print and to the terms of agreement and creating a new, it's not a contract, but let's say a covenant between ourselves and the divine and the future. I think we are looking at the legalistic blend, the balance of love and law. I think I've been saying that for a long time, and I suddenly believe it's becoming evident that we've done a good job in getting ourselves right here. So, yeah, it's tricky, it's complex, but life is about acquiring the skills to decipher the new things that have come into our lives that can be of great benefit to us, just like technology that we so need right now. We're being educated, and when we get educated, that leads to a graduation of our understanding, and we're then viewing things from a whole new perspective. I keep reminding myself, because I've been crabby and moody and, you know, I've been just like you going through stuff. And I've been reminding myself that that's okay. That, like I often say, that it's contrasts in life that brings the beauty. You know, it's the dark and the light and the way the light works in life that creates the colorful beauty of life as well. So if we can acknowledge that it is the complexity of life that advances life, which all the physical scientists understand when they're looking to study the evolution of the earth and the way physical science, you know, the changes in the earth, it's the complexity, then we're right where we need to be. And it's okay that it feels complex and that we don't always get it right. David White, a poet that I'm fond of, wrote a poem called Sweet Darkness, and I want to read it to you. The dark will be your womb tonight. The dark will be your womb. The night will give you a horizon further than you could possibly see, and you must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Sometimes it takes darkness and sweet confinement of aloneness to learn that anything or anyone that does not bring you more alive is too small for you. Isn't that a beautiful poem? that the darkness, the shadows of the times we're living in are like a womb. And that it is in the darkness, in this sweet confinement, what a perfect word. In the darkness of this sweet confinement, we can see it as though we're resting in this womb. We're taking time, we're developing, and we're getting ready for the birth of something new. And so, if you are feeling confined, if you are feeling less alive because of this confinement, then I want to say to you that I think that thought is too small. I think that we should not agree with those small thoughts anymore, and that we need to step up into a grander place and to begin to remember, as Holmes said at the beginning of this message, that we control our thoughts. It's the one thing we can control. All the great heroes have experienced that in their success of all the endeavors that we envy, that we read, or that we are encouraged by. And so let's say no to those small thoughts, and let's look at that opportunity to click that place where we accept the new terms of agreement that are higher. We've been given this gift of a sacred disruption. It will not last forever. We will return to a different way of life, something that we are calling a normal life, and yet we know it won't be the old normal. This is a fabulous opportunity for all of us to be spending time deciding what we want that newness to look like in our own experience of living. We have this time to renegotiate our covenant with Spirit, our own personal covenant with God. And so life is waiting. Life is waiting for us to agree with our own good and to accept life on new terms. And we are called to participate. Let's take our time. Let's read some small print. Let's dive deep in our silent connection with the divine so that we might intuit the ways in which we are ready to say yes again. And so I would like to just take some time, as always, to anchor these words in the power of prayer. So again, we just turn within, resting in that place of the sacred indwellingness of God, becoming aware of the magnificent Spirit within us, and the way that we can never limit the beauty and the magnificence of this grand thing we call life. You know, I feel that love of God within me. I feel it as a sweet memory. Not that it's ever been away, but feeling it and being in it and experiencing it right in this moment, allowing it to express through me and as this is true in my experience of speaking these words of prayer, I know it is true for every person that can hear the sound of my voice, that can resonate with these words, that can open our hearts and our minds to say yes again to Spirit. And so we stand in this place of downloading something new, opening ourselves to expand and stretch our consciousness in ways that we have not even imagined yet, and still in this truth of the expansiveness of God, in this opportunity to renew our covenant with Spirit, that we can grow and we can imagine these unimagined possibilities. We can say yes in greater ways. And in this way, we bring a healing not only to our individual physical being, tapping into that vibrant DNA of God, that healing agent within us, but we expand all of the possibilities. We break any of the bonds that have been holding us back, those places where we have worried about our finances, or the the future of our lives, what will happen tomorrow, where we have worried about our governments or the environment or anything, and we just give it all to God. Because in that vastness of spirit, in that place of infinite intelligence, nothing is wrong. And so we open ourselves and we're patiently downloading this truth, a deeper understanding of the way God works, of the way Spirit shows up in our lives, and in the way we are called to participate. So I am grateful. I am grateful for every person that dared to imagine a world that works for everyone. A world that benefits all of life on this planet. I am grateful for this time of rest. I am grateful for these beautiful, courageous individuals in my life and in my community. And I know that as we align ourselves in gratitude, that we shift something in our physical brains that just allows our consciousness to pop open, to say yes to God, to allow that ability to sense and perceive the goodness that is coming our way, flooding our way, showing up in ways that we have longed for and in ways that we haven't even imagined yet. So I say thank you, God. Thank you, life. I know that all the resources we need here in the West Valley, all the resources we need in our individual lives, and all the resources humanity needs around the globe, that all is given, that everything we need is provided. And this day we say yes, and we do our work. We take the steps to click that button to agree to these new terms of agreement. Thank you, God. Thank you, life. I just release this and let it be. And together we say, and so it is. And so it is. Amen. 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 Thank you for remembering your offerings. I am so deeply touched. People have been driving to church. We will be if you want to get out of the house and you live nearby, we invite you to come do that. I'm just blessing this offering plate right now. We're practicing safe and social distancing and the way we interact with each other. And man, it's been really beautiful to see. I had somebody ring the bell yesterday while I was here doing something else, having another meeting. Somebody rang the bell just to bring their offering in. They saw my car and they brought their offering. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can find the address if you'd like to mail your offering, the website, or in the newsletter. There are lots of activities. I'm not going to spend time telling you. I'm going to invite you to go to WVCSL.com. That's WVCSL for the West Valley for Spiritual Living.com. And there's a donate button right there. I played with it myself. It's not that hard. If I can figure it out, I'm pretty sure most of us can. And thank you for your patience with the hiccups we've encountered again, or not. You know, for all I know, it was a perfect transmission, because that too is possible. And if not, it'll be perfect on the YouTube, which you'll be able to find by Wednesday on our webpage. We have Thursday nights. Reverend Clyde and Reverend Karen are doing a Zoom call, and if you want to show up and participate on that, it'll give you just a chance to check in. We're calling it Revving Up with the Revs. We're not preaching at you. We don't have any wise words of wisdom. We are meeting you heart to heart right where you're at. So come join us. And that's all I've got. I love you. I love you. Namaste. See you again.